Hi guys, this is Stan. Welcome back to my channel. July is such a messy reading month for me. Went for a holiday, birthdays, so I can proudly to say that I can finish 2 books in July with 1 DNF, which is the worst. Instead of doing another separate video for this month's wrap up, let's do it with my August TBR, so this video could be slightly longer. First of all, let's talk about my worst reading month so far in 2024. I put 4 books into my July's TBR and I can only manage to finish 2 of them with 1 DNF, meaning that I still got 1 to finish. I still got 2 days left in July and I have to finish Of War and Ruin. I still got over 900 pages left. The finished ones are both adult fantasy. One of them is historical fantasy and the other one is military. The total page count is roughly over 1200 and the average rating is 4 star, meaning that they are both 4 stars. The unfortunate DNF is an adult sci-fi, which happened to be my GSFF June's pick. Speaking of this one, shall we start with it? It is Lord of the Empty Isles by Jules Arbor. I guess it is how you pronounce it. Sorry for my French. This book is a healing story featuring our main character, Remy. He is an orphan and he was living with his brother, Cameron. Unfortunately, Cameron was investigating this criminal leader called Adrian. To stop this investigation, Adrian imposed a death curse on Cam, making his health slowly deteriorate and at last cause his death. This makes Remy never forget what Adrian has done. With 5 years of preparation, Remy tried to return this favor to Adrian, but he made a mistake. Not only now Remy and Adrian are both cursed, they are also tied together. To slow down his death, Remy has to stay close with Adrian. This makes Remy realize what he has been told in his life is not 100% true. He also sees how Adrian and his criminal crew are helping those who are in need. I think it would be such a great read if you could connect with Remy and emotionally invest in the story. However, there are some issues for me to click with Remy, this main character. I found this book is on the slower side. Sometimes the chapters could be over 25 pages long. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind a long chapter, but I wish there could be some breaks between it so I can sink down my emotions. Also, the magic system here is not fully clearly explained. In the beginning of the story, we are introduced to this kind of magic system, which is about the tie and the wither, which is like the bond and the curse between people. Then the chapter will begin with a description of a specific kind of bond, but we never see how this gonna apply to the story to that chapter clearly. With all of these reasons, I decided to DNF this book when I reached the 200-page mark, which is actually more than halfway through of the book. After this only DNF, now we can move on to talk about the 2 fantasy books I finished in July. First of all, I have the final book of an epic fantasy series, and it is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang, the last book of the Poppy War series. I really love the first 2 books and I couldn't wait to see the finale, so this one was the first book I finished in July. Honestly, I think this one is such a great mess. After the last book, Rin, our main character, has to retreat to the south. She wanna liberate the south from the Mughals and also take down the Dragon Republic and the Hesperians. This journey here, they will have some little success, betrayals, finding old friends as allies. The battles are epic and still strategic. Whether this task is successful or not, I will let you guys to find it out in case some of you want to pick this series up later. When it nearly comes to the ending, Rin and her good old friend Kita can't handle the stress from what is left. Rin, especially as a shaman, she is destined to go crazy in the end. Her paranoia has cost her friends and trust even though they have been following her long enough. Rin also witnessed what this meaningless, selfish war has done not to her but to the country and its people. She is not fit to be in the position to rebuild this country from the aftermath. With all of these reasons, she has to make that hard decision in the ending. It is not a happy, perfect one, it is emotional and heartbreaking. Rin, this character, is not perfect. Looking back now, the decision she had made along the way is questionable. It is like she wants to gain the trust of someone superior than her, but at the same time she wants to take down those who have done her wrong. The last book in terms of the historical references is not as much as the first two, but still it is a very solid historical fantasy trilogy. Then it is shameful to say the last book I finished in July is The Crimson Campaign by Brian McClellan, the second book of the Powder Mage trilogy. I think this series is great if you are into military fantasy. In the second book, we're gonna follow the good old three POVs. Thomas, the leader of the coup, his son Taniel, Adamant, a retired police investigator. Thomas continued his invasion to the Cats, a neighboring nation which is a bit irritating. But with a tactical mistake, he was cut off from the main army. With not much food and water carried by them, the morale is not great. They have to avoid the chasing enemy and find a way home. But this incident makes people believe that Thomas is dead already. Taniel, his son, has to recover from what had happened in the last book. Seeing the Cats is invading again, he decided to move to the front line and defend his home. But in here, he got involved in the politics in the army. With the presumed death of Thomas, people start to take advantage of it, and Taniel has found out two problems in this army: profiteering and a spy from the Cats. Adamant in the last book was blackmailed by Lord Fetus. He has to tell him everything he has investigated. So now Adamant was asked by Thomas to investigate this Lord Fetus to rebuild the trust between them. I think this book is still great. There are so many decisions you have to make on a battlefield. How you gonna take the win or turn the tide if you are in the disadvantage? I like how the plot unfolds. There are layers and layers of political scheme behind every storyline. I also like the fact that in this book, of course, we are gonna be introduced to more characters, but the one we have seen before are rearranged and paired up differently. We are familiar with them and we can feel the new chemistry that sparks with others. I love both Tania's best friend, also the last surviving member of the old royal couple, working with Lena, the laundress of the old king. Taniel and couple can always rely on each other, so I did have a good time reading this one because of the plot and the characters. These are the only two books I finished in July, and I think we should not look back, we should move forward. The Paris Olympics has started, and I think it is a good time to support your country and also do some good reading at the same time. This August TBR gonna have 5 books in it, even though I'm gonna be away by late August, but I hope that I can pick up my reading pace again and finish as much as I can. It will be better to start with the books that I desperately want to read. First of all, without a doubt, it's gonna be The Autumn Republic by Brian McClellan, the last book of the Powder Mage trilogy. I mentioned the second book not long ago, literally just a couple of seconds ago, and I desperately want to see how this series is gonna conclude. There are more players on the board now. Thomas found a new ally and ready to come home. Taniel is free but he witnessed the death of a god. Adamant sees someone take advantage of this instability and want to be the prime minister. Or the first minister, I forgot the title. There are so many layers to the plot and the characters here are so distinctive and lively. I love the chemistry between them. I want to see how this political conflict gonna be resolved and also how the god gonna play in it. And then the second book I haven't got it yet, it is the Broken Binding edition of Jade City by Fonda Lee, the first book of the Green Bone saga. Maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago when I started to read fantasy books. I vividly remember I tried to read this one in Waterstones to see if I like it or not. It was really great. I can't remember the exact details of it, but I was so immersed in it. Luckily, now the Broken Binding is doing this series for their fantasy sub, and I think it is such a good chance for me to check this series out. Jade City is an Asian-inspired fantasy with a bit of gang war elements in it, if I remember correctly. This is about K-Con, this place which could produce magical jade. With the right training, this jade could grant you some superhuman abilities. But with time flies, warriors in these families now are doing commerce or construction. When the tensions between one of these families, Cole and his rivals build up, it turns into open violence on the street. This sounds a really unique take on fantasy, and I can't wait to see how Fonda Lee gonna adapt these cultural elements into this world. I have heard a lot of excellent reviews about this trilogy and I can't wait to dive into it. Speaking of subscription book, I have another exciting one. It is the Gospel GSFF July's book and it is The Night Ends with Fire by K.X. Sung. I was kind of excited about this one because I saw the author was inspired by the Romance of Three Kingdoms, one of the most popular classic historical novel in China. I love that so much because it is quite militaristic, very strategic, with some fantasy elements in a state where three kingdoms were at war. Now this book seems to be a combination between this classic and Mulan. The opening sounds so poppy-war to me. Our main character, Mei Lin, is going to marry this horrible guy arranged by his opium-addicted father. To change her fate, she disguised as a man and joined the army. This sounds exactly like Mulan. In here, she's gonna meet the prince who turned into her training partner, and then she's gonna have some vision from this sea dragon spirit. Also, she's gonna meet this enemy prince who's gonna shake her belief about this world. At this point, I think, oh, it's fine, I always love a historical fantasy. But then I check on Goodreads, this book falls into a category, romance, and I'm like, not sure will I like this one because I am not the biggest fan of fantasy romance, but it seems that it's gonna be fun. After these three books that I cannot wait to read, now comes to two books that are on the flexible side. The first one, even though it is on the flexible side, I still got a time to finish it because it is from the library. And it is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. It is such a popular book this year and I have heard a lot of good things about the characters, the plot, and also the banters. This is quite different from what I usually read because it is a mystery fantasy, which is a genre that I love to watch on TV. Inspector Sitch gonna work with his assistant Tho to solve a series of murders. They will meet different characters who got their own agenda. With the rich world building and complex characters, I think I'm gonna be on a good ride with this one. Coming to the last book, it may be a surprise to some of you because it is not fantasy. It is romance. Literally not long ago, I canceled my subscription with Inumacray because the books are not really something that I'm going to read. Since I received the first book in December last year, I haven't got any more in from them because the picks are just like, not my thing. Later, I signed up for the waitlist for Afterlight, their romance subscription. Now, very luckily, I got the invite, so here comes my July box, my type on paper. So the book for July is Hot Summer by L. Alfahad. I honestly don't know what to expect from a proper romance book, but I think it is a good way to try it out. The synopsis sounds like something that I would love because I also love to watch reality show. This book is about our main character, Cass, who loves watching dating reality show, aka something Love Island-ish. Then the company secured a sponsorship to the new one, so Cass got a chance to the island and encounter her romance, Ada. I think this one is going to be a fun, easy, full of drama read. It will be perfect to cut through all those fantasy breaks I have for this month. I also want to see whether romance, this genre, is really a big no-no for me or not. If I enjoy this one, I would definitely keep an eye on the rest of the titles from Afterlight later this year. So here are the two books I managed to finish in July and the 5 books I want to read in August. August won't be easy, but I really hope that I can pick up my reading pace again and finish as much as I can. Feel free to share what's on your August TBR down in the comment below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. If you don't want to miss any content from me, make sure you have subscribed to my channel. I'll see you real soon. Goodbye.